webinar on diversification, building food security and resilience into climate change mitigation. This webinar is organized by the Forest and Farm Facility, which is a partnership between FAO, IIED, IUCN, and Agricord, and is in collaboration also with the Vietnamese National Farmers Union, VNFU. The objective of this webinar in this 2021 super year of the Food Systems Summit, Climate and Biodiversity COPs, and World Conservation Congress is to showcase how forest and farm producer organizations are building climate resilient farming systems. We will listen to 4 producer organizations to country case studies, which will be preceded by an introduction by IIED. After that, there will be an opportunity for you to comment on some statements that we prepare on this work for the Food Systems Summit. But before we kick off with the presentations, we want to start with the welcome words from David Kaimowitz, who is the manager of the Forest and Farm Facility.
Hi, hello to everybody. Good morning to those in the Western Hemisphere. Good evening to those in Asia, and good end of the morning for those in Africa and Europe. On behalf of the Forest and Farm Facility, I'd very much like to welcome you to this webinar. The Forest and Farm Facility is a partnership of 4 organizations, the FAO, IIED, IUCN, and Agricord, which is working both to support rural livelihoods and also for climate mitigation and adaptation by supporting producer organizations, grassroots organizations in different countries. The webinar is being held as part of a dialogue series of the Food Systems Summit, which has been convened by the UN Secretary General because of so many pressing issues related to food systems around the world. And one of the key questions in the Food Systems Summit is the question of resilience. The Food Systems Summit has 5 different action tracks, and resilience, or how to respond to shocks, to external problems, to unexpected events, is one of the key aspects of the summit itself. For many, many years, tens of thousands of years, farmers and hunter-gatherers, nomads, have had to deal with the great difficulties of rapidly changing, fluctuating conditions, droughts, floods, pests, diseases. Risk is no new thing in the rural world. It's been one of the most central aspects historically the producers have had to deal with. And this is particularly true in the case of smallholders or lower income producers. And those forest and farm smallholders are critical to food systems. They are the majority of the producers of food around the world. And they are also, their consumption of food and what happens and their ability to consume food is essential to the question of reducing poverty in the world. So the question of smallholders is at the very heart in many ways of this Food Systems Summit and this dialogue. Even though these risks and these external shocks and these problems and unexpected events have been common throughout history for farmers and people in the rural areas, what we're seeing is that they're increasing in recent years because of all of the pressure that we're putting on the global system. We're all experiencing that in our day-to-day lives with the pandemic and the way that that's made it difficult for farmers to access markets, in addition to need to respond to the disease and death. And we're seeing that in terms of the increasing climate risks of weather becoming even more unpredictable, extreme events being more common, and producers having to find new ways to respond to the growing threats from climate change, both to adapt to those threats and to find ways to help to stop the climate change itself, particularly climate changes related to local changes in vegetation, which may affect temperature and rainfall locally. The Forest and Farm Facility has been providing direct support to forest and farm producer organizations in a number of countries, particularly in 10 countries in Africa, Asia, and Latin America, and also to some regional and global organizations to help them build their resilience, adapt to climate change, and in general, become more resilient to these sort of external shocks. But one of the most important aspects of the Forest and Farm Facility is that we're not just providing support, we're a learning partnership. We're trying to, from our own experience, from the experience of all of the grassroots organizations, the producer organizations we're working with, to learn and to help build exchanges and discussions like this. And this webinar forms part of that effort. In this context, IIED, the International Institute for Environment and Development, and also AgriCord have been very involved in a knowledge partnership to co-produce learning with the local organizations on how they can become more climate resilient, how they can diversify their options, because we know that diversification is one of the keys, and we know that stronger organization is one of the keys. In particular, this webinar showcases some of the outputs from that knowledge partnership, and we're very happy that you'll be able to hear them and participate in this. That includes 30 different options for becoming more climate resilient. And you'll also be hearing about 4 out of the 10 case studies that were put together jointly by IIED and the different grassroots organizations, farmer and forest producer organizations, about best practices and experiences in specific cases. In particular, we'll be hearing about the cases of Gabon, Madagascar, Nepal, and Vietnam. I certainly look forward to hearing from these different cases and learning, and I'm sure that you will as well. So with that, I will pass to get on with the program and give you a formal welcome. Thank you, and over to you, Duncan.
Thank you very much, David. So yes, as you said, Duncan will now from IIED will set the stage and present the framework of climate resilience and distills these 30 practical climate resilience options. Duncan is the leader of the Forest and Prosperity team at IIED, and so please welcome Duncan, and you have the floor. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Well, it's a great pleasure to be here and speak with you all. If I can have my slides up, that would be great. Thank you, Tony. So my job is to introduce the topic of diversifying options for resilience in order to maintain food security. I'm speaking on behalf of IIED, but also on behalf of the Forest and Farm Facility, which is a partnership. And you'll be hearing from other members of that partnership in the case studies that follow my talk. Next, please. So why are we having this webinar? Well, smallholders matter for food security. There are about 1.3 billion smallholders, communities and indigenous peoples in the world's forest landscapes. 500 of them would self-determine as indigenous peoples. And their collective scale is enormous. So estimates from IUCN suggest that they're responsible for about 0.8 to 1.5 trillion US dollars annually in terms of timber, non-timber forest products, fuel wood, and farm production. And despite using relatively small inputs, they also produce a lot of the world's food, and food particularly that reaches poor people. And that food security dimension also is integrated with an important role in protecting forest landscapes. So 36% of the remaining intact forests are managed by indigenous peoples who protect it very well. And the collective role of these smallholder farmers could be responsible for as much as 30% of emissions reductions for meeting our Paris targets. So next, please. So they're very important in food security terms, and they face real climate risks, temperature extremes, variable rainfall patterns and droughts and resultant fires, but also at the other end of the spectrum, increasingly intense storms, often resulting in flooding. And because all of those things stress plants, there's an increasing outbreaks of pests and diseases. And we've got some longer term or maybe even shorter term issues to do with sea level rise and ocean acidification. All of these risks have impacts, human impacts, so that by 2050, we're expecting to see increasing annual deaths due to temperature extremes, due to food shortages, with as many as 720 million people pushed into extreme poverty. Next, please. So these climate impacts are having a big, creating risks for smallholder farmers. And this is not just an expert opinion. When we asked in the FFF, we surveyed 41 forest and farm organizations from 6 different countries. What we found was that when asked about what are the issues you need support for, help with, the smallholders themselves said that climate resilience information and options was their top priority for new knowledge. They want to know more about diversifying climate smart agroforestry. There are a range of different needs. How do they cope with upsurges in pests and diseases? Next, please. So smallholders themselves are wanting to build resilience. In our work, we've been trying to look at the academic literature to come up with a framework that helps think about climate resilience. And so I'll be presenting the results of that in this talk. We can think of climate resilience really as 2 main parts. On the one side, there's risk assessment, helping farmer organizations to get better knowledge about the climate risks and indeed broader economic risks, pandemic risks, political risks, assessing those risks so as to come up with viable resilience responses. And those responses are really all about, can individuals or farmer organizations persist? Can they adapt in some way to give them more resilience, or do they need to transform the whole production system in order to maintain resilience? Next, please. And there are various dimensions to this resilience work. So it's perhaps useful to think about resilience in 4 dimensions. There's the social dimension. What can be done at the individual level, in a group, or in the social and political system to build more resilience. Then there's the ecological dimension, crops that can be changed, populations of crops, whole ecosystems restructured to become more resilient. There's the economic dimension, can we change the products we're marketing? Can we develop new functions for our group businesses? Can we alter the whole market system to take on new business opportunities. And finally, there's the physical and technological dimension. This again applies at 3 levels: at the level of the individual farmer homestead, but also the group, the business installations, processing facilities, and then at the level of the public infrastructure system. All of these things can contribute to resilience in these 4 dimensions. And there are these levels from individual to group to system in each dimension. Next, please. So just a few things as we've been looking at how people are thinking about resilience and trying to improve it. There are important things to remember. So gender, women face particular and different climate risks and have different resilience responses, often to do with cultural dimensions of rights and access to crops and access to technical support. So that's an important thing to consider in building resilience, to make sure there's a gender element. Then there's the question of connectivity. It's not just looking at the farm or the ecology that matters. You have to remember that the farm is linked to the business, which is linked to the social organization, which is linked to the physical infrastructure. There's a connectivity that we need to think about. And there are also adaptive cycles. So when you have a risk, an extreme weather event, it takes time to get the farms back up and running and the businesses back up and running and the organizations back up and running. And there are these adaptive cycles. Resilience is not something static, it's constantly changing. So these are things to bear in mind when building resilience. It does go in waves. It's not a complete disaster if you take time to get back on your feet. Okay, next, please. I guess perhaps what we've been driving towards and what we think is most useful is to offer to forest and farm producer organizations a set of practical climate resilience options into which they can diversify and try different things to become more resilient. And I've presented these on this slide in the 4 dimensions. So you can see that socially you can strengthen your organization, you can diversify your membership, you can diversify the services you offer to your members, you can build political links and so on. Many different social things that you can do through organization and interaction. Then there are ecological options. You can procure climate adapted stock or plant more things on your farm, enhancing the biodiversity. You can change the spatial arrangements on farm to make the crops more resilient and less likely to suffer from extreme winds or erosion and so on. There are economic options that you can use, increasing the scale of your business, introducing new elements to your business, diversifying the things you process and pack, diversifying who you sell to. There are lots of economic options. And finally, there are physical and technological options. You can do everything from coming up with better land use plans and maps, installing terracing and irrigation, improving your information services and connectivity. So many ways of becoming more resilient. And they're very practical things that any forest and farm producer organization can do. Next, please. So I've mentioned that we commissioned 10 case studies. We commissioned them actually before doing this academic work on resilience. And then we looked with fresh eyes at those 10 case studies to see which of those case studies was actually implementing one of our 30 options. Now you can see across the top of this screen the various countries, so Bolivia, Ecuador, Ghana, Kenya, Madagascar, Nepal, Tanzania, Togo, Vietnam, and Zambia. And then down the left-hand side, you can see all of the different options for becoming more resilient. What I hope will strike you immediately from this figure is that most of the forest and farm producer organizations that had done these case studies were actually implementing most of the resilience options. And I think that's very encouraging because it shows that farmer producer organizations are already able to and engaged in becoming more resilient. Just a word about the red column on the left-hand side. Those are the options which not only adapt to climate change, but help to mitigate climate change, either directly in red or more indirectly in pink. So you can see again that many of the things that farmer organizations are doing to become more resilient are also helping to mitigate climate change. Next, please. And those are the other of the 30 options, just to show you slightly less uptake of the technological and physical dimensions. Next, please. So just a final thought here is that if everyone can, thank you. So if a final thought is that we need to build the strength of these farmer organizations so that they can undertake this resilience work. We need to link the local groups to regional groups that can help them market their products and provide them with services and finance. We need to strengthen federations that can represent forest and farm producers nationally. And that flow of representation and then flow of information and services on climate and climate weather and so on is the way we can support farm organizations. Next, please. And so we've in the book, which we're going to launch shortly, you'll see a framework which is about helping farmer organizations to assess their risks and then to come up with these practical resilience responses. And I hope you'll see in the case studies that follow from 4 countries, many of the options that I've just been hinting at in this introductory presentation. Next, please. So thank you very much for your attention, and I look forward to handing over to our case study talk.
So thank you very much, Duncan, for setting the stage very clearly. I just want to quickly add here that we want also to acknowledge the role of the Vietnamese Farmers Union in this webinar, as these 10 international FFPO case studies were originally prepared to be presented in an international forest and farm producer organizations conference, which would have been hosted by VNFU in Hanoi last year in 2020. Of course, this didn't happen due to the pandemic, but we are still working on a follow-up to this plan, and this webinar is one step in this continuum. So now, as Duncan said, we will start with the presentation of the 4 selected case studies and on how different forest and farm producer organizations build their climate resilience and how diversification is one key element in this. Our first case study presenter comes from Ghana. Julius Awarega is the founder of Orgis, a women-focused organization in the north of Ghana, which believes in impact-driven business using underutilized resources like baobab to create a sustainable income with them. Julius' biggest dream is to regreen the drylands of Africa, especially the watershed areas. Julius Awarega will present us the case of Kanbako, the Kasena Nankana Baobab Cooperative Union. Julius, you have the word, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. I didn't know that you know me more than I know myself. Ben, can you help me sort out? Sorry, I'm trying to share my screen, so.
You don't have to share your screen. It is Tony who is sharing the screen. You just have to say next for the next slide.
Okay, sorry, I didn't know. Thank you. So I was supposed to do this with my colleague, but because of the situation in our hands, my colleague is on the field, so I'll do that on his behalf. So Uncle Tony, can you move to the next page? Hello, is that good? Yes, so yes, we are talking about resiliency here. And when you look at the rural communities, there are so many things that people do to cope over the years. And with the emerging technology and capacity building, people are moving up the ladder. And in the case of Kambako, they are using various commodities, including agricultural commodities and non-timber forest products. And because of the climatic variability situation and the inconsistency of our rain in the landscape within the northern part of Ghana, tree crops have become one of the key pillars of resilience building and diversification of income and others. And such tree crops that are found within the landscape is baobab, shea, pankia, and balanitis. These three resources previously were used as a spiritual, cultural, and medicinal purposes. But with the increasing situation in the globe and the opportunities that afford to the people, they are now being used at the global market to produce various products, especially in the cosmetic sector. Can we move to the next slide, please? Now, on the climate risks and the experience of Kambako, the main climatic threats that stared in our face every day is the agroecological system. The soils can no longer support the production of crops as it used to be. The level of degradation in our environment is so rampant, with issues of tree cutting and exporting of our dryland trees to China and other countries, biodiversity loss due to illegal mining. These threats have also affecting businesses and the socio-cultural system of our people. And this impacted our people in the way of reducing crop yields. The rains as either come early or it comes late. Sometimes we have the rains coming very quickly and then create some floods, and sometimes the rain can come. Yesterday, I was in Burkina Faso, and I was so amazed to see the devastation that wind has caused to a Shia population that I have never seen in my life, and it's so shocking. Can we go to the next stage? Thank you. On the diversification side, in the area of natural resources and the kind of three resources that are available in our landscape, Kambako is using various approaches to diversify it and make themselves resilient and make themselves food secure and income secure. And we do this using the vertical integration and the horizontal integration. The vertical integration looks at how we can increase product lines from raw material to semi-finished to packaging and orders. The horizontal integration is our continuous efforts to identify various products within the landscape that can help these rural families to keep coping. And in the case of Kambako, this has led to a contribution of about 45% of resiliency and adaptive capacity for businesses in our operations over the last 10 years. Can we go? Yes. So in doing this, we have this table to show each of the value chain contribution on income diversification using the vertical approach. So for Baobab, we've been working on Baobab for the past 10 years. And the contribution is so significant. We've been working on shea. The shea here, we are talking about the shea kernel, which the export companies buy from Kambakuk members, and also shea butter, where Kambakuk members add value to the raw shea nut, and that of the pankia seed, and the balanitis seed, and moringa seed. Each of these commodities, or each of these three crops, are contributing significantly to food security and income diversification for the members of Kambako. Can we move to the next slide? This slide is also talking about the horizontal contribution in terms of resiliency and food security diversification. And like I did explain, we have the various trees that we identified that have the value for income generation. We also have the processing system that add value to the raw product that help members of the cooperatives to be resilient in the face of climate change and its impact. As I speak to you, nobody has crop within the landscape in northern Ghana, which is so significant that had not happened. We are in June today 9th, and there's no cropping taking place. It tells you the contribution of these three crops for the resiliency of our communities. If the rains are not coming, and all our communities depend on rainfed for crop production, the only surest way is to rely on the tree crops, such as the NTFPs that have been listed under the Kambako product diversification processes. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes. In contributing to diversification, there are social ways our communities are also working to reduce climate change impact and food security issues. And one of them, which is popular, is the communal labor system, using the cooperative to support members to engage in businesses. Those who do shea butter processing individually in their homes is so tedious. So what they do, they group a minimum of 5. They process for one cooperative member, and the next day they process for another cooperative member. And together they aggregate it and transport it to the nearest market. There are so many social systems that make the culture and the life system of our community so unique. And such social system is funeral. This morning, we lost one of the cooperative member, and I have to dash to the funeral house. And if you see the cooperative members in their colorful uniform, contributing by fetching water and other things, make the whole thing so unique and reduce the stress of the individual family members. The last one I will share is the conflict resolution. And the Kambakuk has a simple case I will just share to show how members contribute in this. One woman divorced her husband because of misunderstanding. Later, the husband regretted, but he was feeling sad to go bring the woman. The cooperative decided that they'll go bring their colleague because her children living in the communities no longer have their mother to care, and they go to people's houses. They went and spoke with the husband. He agreed, and the cooperative members contribute and send 3 of their members to go and bring their own. And when the woman come, the husband have to thank the cooperative for their support to reunite his family. These are very significant stories you can see within Kambaku cooperatives, and it's so significant and bringing the community to move forward. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yes, also in terms of diversification, we are also looking at how to diversify the businesses of the various products for the Kambakuk members. And like I mentioned earlier about the shea, the baobab, the moringa, the neem, and the balanitis. The landscape is so different from geographical location to geographical location. There are areas where the livestock population is high, moringa production is difficult. So the areas that the landscape is good, the livestock can find food without destroying moringa. When you go to those areas, the communities focus in the production of moringa. And likewise, the other commodity, especially baobab, it is specifically geographical areas that have these 3 resources. So members of Kambakuk within this geographical area focus on these specific commodities that they have competitive advantage. And they do this and are able to do savings in their various community cooperative VSLAs, which contribute in diversification and resiliency of the communities and the households in general. Can we move? Thank you. Now, like I mentioned, the village savings and loans is being used within the Kambakuk cooperatives as a group dynamic approach, and also as a mobilization of resources for investment approach. Because the village savings and loans bring the cooperative together every week. So they discuss their issues, they discuss how their cooperatives can grow, and then they mobilize their own financial resources and they lend among themselves. So we've been doing this, and these cooperatives within the Kambakuk have grown over 400 of them, which became very difficult for monitoring and support mechanisms to be effective. So we move to support the members to create a credit union. Can we move on?
Julius, you have 2 minutes more. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, so in terms of sharing some of the diversified processes, you can see 2020 share out, which is a lot of money that cooperative members are distributing among themselves from their income sources. We also have their baobab value chain growing at such a speed that shows that income diversification from this commodity is really helping the members. Can we move to the next slide, please? I spoke about the credit union. This is just an example to show. That is the spreadsheet of the credit union. It's been 6 months old. So far, they have mobilized over 676,000 Ghana cedis, which some of the members have withdrawn their money to invest in their agriculture because of the onset of rains, but they still have a balance of 492,000 Ghana cedis in their bank account, which they will invest into some other businesses because we are getting to the share season. Can we move to next slide, please? This is also about physical infrastructure that can propel the Kambakuk income growth. So you can see the tricycles that Kambakuk is sourcing for its members, the warehouse and the share marketing system that these warehouses is supporting the members to do business with. Can we move to next slide, please? Yes, in conclusion, and one of the greatest things we started doing is the tree nursery you are seeing. This year, Kambakuk members in Pindar community are raising 27,000 tree seedlings from 4 different species: shea, baobab, mahogany, cashew, and other lesser known species. And because of the higher growth of Kambakuk members, they also organize themselves into zonal unions. And so far, Kambakuk have about 5 zonal unions within its operational area to facilitate meetings and discussing and addressing problems very easy, and also to reduce the distance factor that members have to travel. Can we move to next slide? Now, economic partnership is one of the surest ways within this COVID period, even though businesses are very slow, but the baobab value chain this year alone is engaging over 300 employees for 7 months. And these employees from Kambakuk members are working 6 days in a week and running 24-hour shifts. And this is a significant contribution to the resiliency of the members. And thanks to the private sector companies who are the off-takers of these commodities. Can we move? Thank you. This is some of the few sharings that I can do from our sides. And thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Julius, for this very interesting example from Kambakuk in Ghana. Very interesting indeed. Our second case study presenter is Ms. Nusilalu Lucy, who is the president of the National Platform of Women, Sustainable Development and Food Security. Apart from this function, she has many other distinctive functions and teams related to women and environment, sustainable development, and food security. Among others, she's also the national focal point of the African Environmental Information Network of Madagascar. Let's welcome Lucy Nusilalu, and she will present the case of the Manarivo Society and its forest supply cooperatives. The word is yours. You're muted still, Lucy. You're muted. Can you unmute?
Okay. So, good morning, everybody.
Hello?
I'm very enjoy and have a pleasure to present Madagascar. Yeah.
Your connection is not very clear. Can you speak again?
Yeah.
Maybe turn your camera off just that might make it easier for us to hear you.
Okay. It's okay?
Yes.
Yes,
Is
yes,
it okay, please?
yes, please go.
Is it
You can
okay?
go. Yes, yes, you can talk now.
Okay. It is a great pleasure for me to present Madagascar, about Manarivo Society and its forest cooperative. Thank you very much for this opportunity to present it. This Manarivo, next please. Manarivo Abbey Society is located in region Alamanga. I want to
We have a problem with sound.
it is a, you see the
Hello, we cannot really hear you well.
in the slide that the Manarivo company was founded on 2011 for transaction, and initially this company was made up of around 60 people, primarily working on the exploration and establishment of agricultural plots with a totality of 100 hectares. Next, please. Yeah. These 60 members are farmers, and in only 2 years managed to produce many products. And Manarivo products many cereals like rice, aromatic, and medicinal plants into essential oils, spices, pink paper, tropical fruits, Arabica coffee, and so on. The Manarivo contributes to food security by producing diverse food crops. And 2 years after, Manarivo agriculture
Sorry, Lucy.
they created the resource and it is
Lucy, Lucy,
Yeah.
we have trouble. We cannot
Yeah.
hear you. We cannot hear you well. We cannot hear you well.
Also, Lucy, can you reduce the volume of your microphone, please? Reduce the volume of your microphone, please.
Hello? Can you try again?
I put my customer. Is it okay, please? Is it okay, please?
Can you talk and we hear? It's difficult.
If you can reduce the
Can you?
volume of your microphone, it will be okay.
Can you try to speak
Maybe.
again, Lucy? Lucy? I don't know. Hello?
It might be necessary, I think, perhaps for one of us to just present on Nusilala's
Is it
behalf.
okay on the microphone?
No, it's not okay, really. We cannot really understand you. Hello? Yeah,
I'm happy to try. I'm to just step in, Lucy. I'm sorry because your slides are excellent.
I try it. Sorry.
okay, that's better. No,
Is it okay?
Yes, please don't shout.
Okay. After 2 years, the foundation Manarivo Abbey created the Treasure and Science brand, and it is an artisanal brand of the Manarivo group. It is a concept certified, operating on its own certified land in the Analamanga region. and every product aims at inspected and monitored for optimal production. The products from Trésor and Sense are NOP and European Organic Standard certified. The Manarivo has the objective such in Madagascar in sustainable development and food and nutritional security in Madagascar, strengthening integration into social networks, developing partnerships and collaboration with other economic operators and producer organizations, investing in autonomous and modern production systems, and innovating and developing quality label products. These are the objectives of Manarivo AB. Next, please. The four cooperative working with the Manarivo company, it has greatly improved the resilience of its OP5 members in the Bunglav and the Nalamanga regions. These two regions is near by strengthening their capacity to deal with climate change and to fight against climate change by creating adaptation and mitigation of climate change. In smart agriculture to face the climate by creating firewalls to fight against bushfires, following rain management technique and the emergency plan on rainwater management, but also by following the plans of health emergency in the Malagasy state. These four supply cooperatives named Santa Javund, Natiki, and KF2VS with 80 members, including 47 women in the municipalities, 2 of the district of Bematazana and Mianjarivo. It was in the region Bungulava. They ensure the planting of agricultural and forestry resources, which are the raw materials of the Manarivo company. These farm cooperatives produce more than 3,000 tons of peanuts and contributes to around 5% of the national production. They produce peanuts and ensure the transformation of peanuts into crude oils. And then Manarivo company cleans the oil and ensures the packaging and the marketing. And Manarivo is also encouraging those cooperatives to supply other products and so diversify the products. Next, please. Next, please. Manarivo products many products and they ship that's the chain and the essential oils, soap, hydrogel, and this, for example, to fight against the pandemic. So the honey, the rice, paper, coffee, and the oil of peanuts. The Manarivo AB has already the retailers, and she sells already their products in the great supermarket in the capital, like Soros, Calto, Madagascar, DCR Gallery, Bread Mafana, Score, Jumbo Score, Art Blanc, the pharmacy, and supermarket .mg. These are the great supermarkets in the capital. The main climate change risk experienced by the FFPO is the delay of the rain and rainfall variability, and the third, flood. The Manarivo brand name Trésor and Sense also is available in the jumbo score. Next, please. I want to tell you about the diversification in natural resources to reduce climate risk of failure. Manarivo use of suitable improved seed, use also of organic fertilizer, use of well water, implements the new technologies such as intelligent agriculture in the face of climate, agroforestry, permaculture. She adapts also the growing season according to the meteorological information. She practices of biological fight through the production of organic compost, the production of plant manure, and fermented extract for preventive and curative action. She practice of crop association and rotation, manage rainwater well by following the rainwater management emergency plan, and then develop small farms with diverse products, including tropical beekeeping and fish farming. About the next, please. Diversification of business products to reduce climate risk of failure. The FFPO of the Bungalava region saved their money on the cattle. And for its financial investment capacity in the future, the FFPO of the Bungalava region is supported by the regional partnership with the rural micro enterprise and market operators. They are committed to contributing considerably to the development of the peanuts and oil factory sector at the Tirumandidi. This is the district level in the Bungalava region in order to sustainably meet the needs of operational measures on the development of the region. The measures must be geared towards increasing local added value. In the left, you see the schema of the structure of the activities of the members of the FFPO, of the Bungalava and Manarivo Agriculture Biologic. Prosperer Bungalava will support this FFPO by increasing their productions this year. Prosperer has already included these activities in its multi-annual action plan 2020 and 2025. Next, please. Diversification of social networks to reduce risk of climate failure. Since its creation, Manariv AB has continued to forge relationships with various partners and national or global organizations that have major interest in its activities. We can name a few, for instance, the National Platform for Women's Sustainable Development and Food Security. We work with the Commission Indian Ocean, with JZ, with BNZ, and with the Bank African and Development. We can name also the Scaling Up Nutrition Movement, in particular the private sector platform and the researchers platform. The National Alliance for Food Fortification in Madagascar, the Syndicate Malagasy of Organic Agriculture, the Syndicate of Industries of Madagascar, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Antananarivo in Madagascar, and Manarivo has a science page also, her Instagram, and Treasure and Science also e-commerce website is under their construction.
You have one
Next,
minute
please.
left. Lucy, you have 1 minute left. Please wrap up.
Okay. 1 minute left. The diversification of physical infrastructure technology They create a investment zone, including perennial sustainable infrastructure, increase the exploited areas, multiply partnership as well as collaboration with organization of agriculture and forestry producer, develop small farms, tropical bikini and fishing farming.
Hello, Lucy? I think we lost her, no? Lucy?
Do you want to just put the last two
Yeah,
slides
the
on?
last slide, maybe that would be good to put, Tony. Can you put the conclusions? I think with that, no, the former slide, yeah, the former slide is maybe, Duncan, you want to say something there or no?
Yes, so I guess the main conclusions are that they're building the capacity of producer organizations through a process of risk management and identifying new options, helping them to do savings and loans groups to improve their financial resilience, while also doing a lot of work on diversifying crops away from just a reliance on peanuts towards more organic production, but also introducing more species that can be sold through the company. And they're helping them to improve their communication and marketing strategy. So some really innovative work to try and build resilience and strengthen food security in Madagascar. And we do apologize to Lucy and to you all for the difficulty in hearing some of that, but I hope you managed to understand it because of the quality of the slides. Thank you.
Thank you. Also thanks, of course, to Lucy for this very insightful presentation. Let's now go to the next presentation and welcome Ms. Anu Adhikari as our third case study presenter from Nepal. She is the Senior Program Officer, Climate Change, Gender and Social Inclusion of the IUCN Office in Nepal. And she's part of IUCN's Ecosystem Management Program. She coordinates the implementation of IUCN's global projects and initiatives on nature-based solutions, focusing on ecosystem-based adaptation and ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction in Nepal. Ms. Adhikari will present us the case of the Laliguras, herbal women group in Nepal. You have the floor, Anu.
Yeah, thank you, Sophie. Yeah, I thought that not open the video maybe due to the technology problem. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening all. First of all, I would like to thank FF15 for selecting the Nepal case study and providing me this opportunity to present the case. Yeah, here I am going to present the case on how the marginalized, disadvantaged, and most vulnerable members of the community can succeed to run the small-scale enterprise business that is essential oil production and enhance their food security. Next one, please. Yeah, the business has been running by the group of poor and socially excluded women members of the community forest user groups named Chisapani Community Forest, which was established in 1997 and formally registered in 2009. And to achieve the goal of providing economic benefits to the poor and socially excluded members and sustainable management of the forest resource, including underutilized forest land, the executive committee of this community forest, in collaboration with the private sector company, supported these women members by providing an opportunity, firstly, to engage in the cultivation of these herbal plants, and later on to run the small scale enterprise for processing herbal plants and extraction of the oil. And initially there was 9 women members selected, and among these 4 are four were landless and 5 had very small piece of land which are covered by their house buildings only, and they are very poor and have the problem of food security as they have not their own land for the self-food production. And they manage their daily food requirement by earning from the daily wage labor and also collecting the wild fruits from the community forest, in which community forest they are the members, and but this also is not certain for the every month and every years. And so later on, this group extended with 16 members, women groups named Laliguras Herbal Women Group in 2013, and established the herbal processing industry called Sisapani Community or Herbal Processing Industry, which is located inside this community forest, and started plantation of only one herb species, that is patchouli, in 10 hectares of unused barren land. And later on, they extended this area within the community forest as well as in their private land, and products sold to the private sector and local community. And regarding the the forest and food and tree-based production, the NTFP are the major food and tree-based production of this group. Under the NTFP, they have both consumptive and non-consumptive species, and they have different medicinal and aromatic plants in their both forest and farmlands, mainly for herbal medicine and essential oil production, and have wild foods, mainly fruit, vegetable, and spices, and fodder and forage for their livestock feeding purpose, and crops, fruits, and vegetables, fish, and thatch gas for their construction of the house roof, and timber for the household construction purpose, and fuel wood for cooking purpose. And they have also collected litter for the bedding of the livestock and organic production of the organic manure. Next, please. As the impact of climate change is in both and forest and farmland they are experiencing, and the group experiencing that the major climate risks are mainly change in temperature and precipitation. And regarding the temperature, there is a rise in temperature and heat waves, and they most frequently experience the drought. And similarly, they experience that the changes in precipitation, that means untimely, irregular rainfall, and changes in frequency and intensity means they are feeling experiencing that heavy and intense rainfall within their area. And similarly, the monsoon pattern has been changing, and sometimes the monsoon comes earlier, and sometimes it's late, and sometimes no rain for a longer period of time. And also increase the extreme weather events, that means number of events are increasing, and the wind and storm is also going to be stronger and stronger year by year. And then there is the increase in frequency of thunderstorm, and also they are experiencing that the size of the hailstone are going to be bigger, and which have more lost the crops and other their forest products. And as well as there is also they are feeling that frequency of disaster risks as the area is expanded from Tarai to hill area, and they feel they are just feeling experiencing the more landslide in the upstream area and floods in the lower plain area of the downstream area. Next slide, please. And as I have said earlier, that to address these climate risks or to reduce the impact of climate change in their business, the Laliguras Herbal Women Groups diversified their business resources, business products, social network, and physical infrastructure and technology. And then regarding the diversification of the resources, they started to cultivation of the variety of species suitable at different ecological zone. And they also expanded and scale up their production beyond their community forest. Means they also started to cultivate in their private land by leasing the private land also. And they also diversified the different NTFP species and by establishing of the separate women groups, means they just form the separate sub-women groups for the different NTFP species. And they also diversified a product that is, as I mentioned earlier, initially patchouli, and later on they added the different map species, tree and grass species for livestock purpose, and where more than 10 species they have planted. And then they also started vegetable farming by leasing the private land for the fallow period only. And it is experienced during the COVID-19 pandemic. There is also scarcity of the foods, and most of the people are attracted on the need the vegetables for their daily needs. And though this thought that there is a scope, so they started these things. And also they initiated livestock production and fish farming in the wetland of the forest. And then they provided distillation plant for processing service to nearby community forest groups for their products. And they also diversify the raw material for the oil extraction. Next, please. And regarding the diversification of the business product to reduce the climate risks, they added the herbal species inside the community area as well. Initially, they just planted in the 10 hectares of the land. Later on, they expanded it on the 40 hectares of the community forest area. And then they also started herbal species in their private land for the fallow period only. And they are doing the fish farming plus banana plantation along the wetland of this community forest area, and they link to this wetland with the ecotourism by providing also the boating facility to the tourists. And they used a distillation plant for income generation, means they are charging the some money to, instead of the giving the service of the processing service to others. And also they diversify the product, and which lead to the created the local employment, means they to operate these distillation plants. They just hired the permanent local people as staffs, and and beside this they also hire the daily wage labor for during the time of the harvesting and this at the time of the processing things. And they also, the women groups also started a saving and credit program within their enterprise from the money, the income they received from by selling these essential oils. And they initiated also the selling of livestock product, means livestock business, which is also after the experiencing the COVID-19 pandemic, that livestock product, mainly milk, ghee, and meat. And then they also started some thatch grass and timbers marketing. And you can see that there are lots of the essential oils. They are different with respect to the different species. Here is the cinnamon oil, lemongrass oil, mentha oil, and citronella oil, palmarosa oil, and wild turmeric oil. Next one, please. And they also diversified their social network to reduce the vulnerability, means they established the linkage with other nearby community forest women groups, mainly 7 producer women groups. And they also make started the community farming by forming the new group. And in this new group, they included the poor, marginalized, and vulnerable people from this area. And they also involved in the social development activity. That means that is they are the member of the community forest area. Community forest has some provision that the certain amount of their community forest income need to invest in the social development activity. As women, these women groups are also contributing on the income generation of this community forest. They got chance to engage in this social development activity, and which leads to they increase their the value in the community, and they are also able to influence in the decision making of the process of the community forest, and which also increase their access to resources, availability of resources, information, and markets. And the women groups also started socialization and networking within and outside the group, and they share the learning at different programs and increase their mobility. That means that earlier, these are poor and socially excluded women, they need to take a permission of their husband or their mother-in-law or father-in-law to go outside their house. But once they involve in this business, and there is not necessarily, they have their own identity, and they're not necessary to get the permission, so their mobility has been increased, and there is up to the market level as well. And then as well as their responsibility is diversified, means they are not only responsible for their household chores, they are also responsible for the natural resource management, and then business operation, and this cultivation things, and other social networking and social events as well. And then they also diversify the partner, and which helps them to assess the finance and financial resources. They assess the technical resources, technical assistance, but finance is more important for them. Like that, they not only partners with the private sector, they also partnering with the NGO, INGO, and local government, and they are able to catch the resources from the even local government as well. And then their institutional capacity is strengthened in collaboration with a different institution. Next, please. And then they also diversified their physical infrastructure and technology. As I have already said that they are poor and socially excluded. They have not even resources. And initially they just involved in the cultivation of this patchouli herb species inside the community forest area, and they directly sell to the private company. But later on they got support the one distillation plants, very small distillation plant, and after that they also increased the number of distillation plant and diversified the capacity of the plants. Currently they have 3 plants and small, medium and large capacity, and they also adopted new technology based on the best distillation plant and other technology like that. They used to water pump to pumping the water, and for securing the water during the flooding season, they just used the water storage tank, and they changed their cooking system from the traditional fuel wood, fire wood using to the less consumptive fire system like improved cook stove and biogas plant. And for the water scarcity problem, they used drip irrigation system in their farmland for irrigation purpose, and they also adapted the agroforestry system, and they adapted those type of technology which are poor, marginal and vulnerable people, mainly woman friendly. And they also established their own nursery in the community forest area for the annual plantation purpose, mainly in the community forest as well as in their own private land. And to address the disaster risks, problems, they started riverbank protection, and where they just planted the bamboo and eucalyptus. And bamboo is they can sold it in the market and get the economic return. And from the eucalyptus, they can also just extract the oil. Next one, please.
You have still 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah, and I would conclude that the only establishment of the business is not the indicator of the success. And for the successful of the any business, the main concern is sustainability of this business enterprise. And as this the case, this business is the community-led small enterprise, and its sustainability mainly depend on the level and period of external business supporting service received by the community and those, especially those institutions, these groups. And for this, they require continuous support for business enterprise development service, along with financial and technological support till they gain the confidence or strengthen their business institution. That means that here, I mean that they are currently the community forest executive committee are supporting them to run those business, mainly in the management aspect, and they are doing the other things. And so another issue is viability and success of business enterprises, and there are so many factors. And when doing this case study, we found that ecosystem health and diversified service provision and availability, stable economic returns, favorable climate condition, proper management and business planning and marketing linkage, and institutional capacities supporting national or local policy plan and strategy are important factors. And from this case, I want to conclude that this case shows that there is a clear linkage between resilient business and food security. In this case, as the groups are from poor and marginal and disadvantaged community, and having a problem of the food security, and they are utilizing their business income to purchase the food or to sustain their livelihoods. And they also diversified their products such as integrated vegetable, fruit, fish, and livestock farming with urban farming in their business plan, which shows that this diversification is only one solution for food security and climate resilience, particularly to this type of the smallholder farmers, and more focusing on those poor and socially excluded women's groups. And so I want to say that this case may be the good case for the gender and social inclusion or gender inclusive possibility. Thank you very much. If you have any question, I'm ready.
Thank you. Thank you very much for this presentation, Ms. Adhikari, very interesting. Now we go to our final case study presenter, and she comes from Vietnam. Ms. Tuan Ho is an environment and climate change researcher and trainer from the North Vietnam College of Agriculture and Rural Development. The case study she is presenting was conducted by a team of facilitators of the Forest and Farm Facility Program hosted by the VNFU, which also includes Yvonne and Tang, who are present here. Welcome to Ms. Thuan Ho, who will present us the case of the Vietnam Cinnamon and Star Anise Cooperative. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Ms. Sophie. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me all?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Now, on behalf of the FFF team in Vietnam, Ms. Yvonne, Mr. Thắng, Mr. Hồng, Mr. Tiến, and I would like to present Vietnam Cinnamon and Star Anise Cooperative case study with topic strengthening capacity to diversify farmer business models for climate resilience. With 7 main content, please. Please. And the present follow 7 main content. Firstly, next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. First, image is the development picture of the Vietnam Cinnamon and Star Anise Cooperative. The development history of this cooperative can be divided into 4 stages. Step 1, before 2015, with a starting point of 4 small farmer groups growing cinnamon. Family farmers only sold raw cinnamon products like leaves, bark, branches, wood to middlemen with low prices, without information about the market, depending on traders and technology, like market information and technology, like policy information, and a lot of battles to the forest. And to second step, 2015 to 2016, with the companion of FFF, farmers decided forming for official cinnamon growing groups become an interconnected group with 39 members and more 100 hectares cinnamon. Move to step 3, the Vietnam Cinnamon and Star Anise cooperatives were established with 23 members, with core investment from the Vietnam Summit Imposting Company. That's a private investor which later become a member of the cooperative. And step 4, from 2020 until now, there are 1,000 hectares of successful organically produced cinnamon in the locality. That's the result of advocacy policy. And export to more than 15 countries, revenue $2 million in 2020. Farmer diversification into other value chains such as honey, mulberry for silk, medical plants, ecotourism, community tourism, and they also diversification many products from cinnamon, with 19 kinds of products from cinnamon. Next slide, please. Yeah, next picture, please. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, during such a development, the cooperative has faced increasing risk of climate change, such as average annual temperature, the change of the average annual rainfall, and the occurrence of extreme weather events appear with increasing frequency and intensity. So, experience passed from generation to generation is not enough to use under current conditions. As you see in the picture, next picture, please. Yeah, Turnroot on the cinnamon tree has not had a specific fungicide development to combat it yet. And there was many years when the leaf bloom broke out into an epidemic, like 2009, 2011, 2015, and 2014. That's causing hundreds of hectares of forest losses each year. Yeah, next slide, please. Next slide, yeah. Next slide, yeah. To face the risks, the members of the cooperative discussed with each other and seeking the solution to diversify products from main tree cinnamon and develop diversify other product chain of the cooperative under forest canopy to enhance biodiversity and forest ecosystem. And you can feel next slide, please. Yeah, next picture, continue, please. You can feel the change in soil quality and biodiversity in the cinnamon forest when you visit here. Next picture, please. Yeah. Next, yeah. Next, please. Yeah, I will see the forest with diversifying other crops. Yeah. Along yeah. Okay. Along with resource diversification is diversification in business products based on considering its strength and capabilities. The cooperative also seeks to add value to its products, producing and applying for organic cinnamon certification, producing stabilized according to strict standards to export to other countries. With difficult markets such as Europe, Japan, and so on, diversifying other products of the cooperative towards domestic customer segments, like beekeepers, mulberry growers, or herbal plant growers, or handicraft. Yes, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah, you can see the picture. Yeah, that's a woman. Yeah, in the cooperative. Yeah, next slide. Yeah, next slide, please. Yeah, the cooperative. Come back, please. Like this. Yeah, the cooperative also expand its social network to jointly develop and attract other resources and strengthen its voice in policy advocacy. They connect with 500 associated farmers and locally labor. They buy more organic rice from farmers in other provinces to service produce, and they also create a lot of jobs for more than 100 local labels, with 75% women and young, increase 15 to 13% for farmers, profits for farmers. And they also contribute to the local social welfare fund and help people with circumstances in the locality. Next slide, please. Yeah, and they encourage women and youth to develop their ability to contribute to the development of the cooperative. And they also has a partnership relationship with a range of support program agencies. They have a close partnership with Vietnamese company for distribution and export. They also connect with many government programs like OCOP or vocational training program for farmers of Vietnam government. They also connect with program of bank and program of government to build a new rural economy. That's the make and they also learn and how to get more resources. So they receive grant support and resources from local and foreign NGOs such as Habitat of Farms and the Vietnam Organic Association for training organic, for connection for market, and they work hard. Has attracted local authorities to seek other support resources. Next slide, please. And during that process, it's very necessary to develop infrastructure and technical, such as building a forestry road to the cinnamon hill, joining hands with local people to build the roads so that the exploitation and it is easier to transport cinnamon containers and reduce mining costs, consolidate and develop the grid power system in severe processing for manufacturing. And they also invest in building synchronous and modern processing plant system. They also have programs to improve skills of employees skill of member of the cooperatives as well as labor in the locality. Next slide, please. And with high size, the process of the cooperative development can be systematized into 7 key steps as follows. You will see the first step, with the support of FFF, they recognize benefits of cooperation in the face of increased external risks. With the support of FFF and VNFU, they come to step 2. They recognize benefits of cooperation in the face of increasing external risks. Step 3, they identify products, vision, and SWOT analysis leading to the formation of producer groups, then an interconnected group, and then finally a cooperative. And step 4, they make business incubation to build staff capability within business organization. And step 5, product and business planning in core value chain. And step 6, diversification into new value chain and market. And finally, final step, implementation of further production pilots, evaluation, and they also make many lessons learned and replication. Next slide, please. Yeah. And finally, to answer the questions, how the cooperative build resilient and food security, there are a lot of key points. There are a lot of factors that cooperative build resilience and food security, but there are 3 main factors that we want to emphasize. Next slide, please. Firstly, the key point. The key point is strengthening the capacity of local farmer organizations in ways that enable them and add value to their product, diversify their product, and diversify into additional alternative value chains and key points to gain climate resilience. Second, the important role of the VNFU at local level, Vietnam Farmers Union at local farm level should not be underestimated in active coordinating and linking FFPOs with enterprise, scientists, authorities, agencies, and financial institutions. And the third most important thing is the involvement of local authorities and related R&C or departments contribute greatly to the success of cooperative. Next slide, please. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Ms. Thuan Ho. With this Vietnamese case, very interesting, we end the case study presentations. Now we will start a plenary dialogue, which will be facilitated by Pauline Buffel from IUCN. She is a program officer of the Forest Conservation Program of IUCN, and she is also part of the FFF team. She will facilitate an interactive process using a software called Mural, which will allow you to feed comments on our proposals for the Food Systems Summit Action Track 5. She will, of course, explain all this. And in the meantime, if you have any questions for the former presenters, you can put them in the chat so that we can see how we can also find some time to get some answers of the presenters. I pass now the word to Pauline. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Thank you. Thank you very much to all for this great presentations. So unfortunately, we will not have as much time as we hoped for this interactive and part of the webinar and for a discussion. But as Sophie said, the idea is to use this online tool to gather your feedback on some of the potential recommendations that could be made to the summit, because I don't know if you are all aware, but the Food System Summit has also organized, made this independent dialogues possible in order to make sure that every type of groups, every parties could actually make concrete recommendations to the summit. And because of time, we knew that. So we took the liberty to draft 6 statements in advance. But of course, we need to be sure that you are comfortable with those statements and that we get your feedback and insight given your experience. So I have put the link in the chat, so I cannot see the chat anymore, but I don't know if you can see it. If not, Marguerite can put it again. So if you go on in the chat and click on this long website address starting by https app mural, there you will be asked to provide an email. So it might take a bit of time to load. But you will be asked to put an email address or a name, it depends, and then you will need to, sorry for the background noise, you will need to click on the visitor button, enter as visited, and then you should be able to see a page with the statements. So I will quickly share my screen if that's possible to show you how it looks. And here, this is how it's gonna look. So here we have drafted all the statements. On the right-hand side here, you can go and click on statement 1. Then once you have read it, for example, David, I can see he's on it. You go on the left bar, and here you can open the sticky notes, or you can directly double click under the statement. And here we suggest that you could make your comments, say if you agree, if you disagree, and make some recommendation, if any. Once you have done this with statement 1, you can go to statement 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so on. So I will, it's despite the background noise on my side, it's quite, I'm going to leave my screen as it's quite interesting to see. I will go on mute, so it's going to be a big silence for a little while, but I think it's very important to gather your feedback. Ask your questions in the chat, and also because of the timing, I will make sure that this this tool is open in the coming hours for the rest of the day. So if you don't have time to do it right away, I will leave it open. Thank you.
Pauline, could you just read through each of the statements for us?
Yes.
So
Duncan, can you let me know if the background noise on my side is problematic?
Fine.
Okay. Thank you. So the first statement is in comparison with industrial agriculture, the collective small holdings of forest and farm producer organizations and the territories of indigenous peoples together constitute substantially the largest private sector food system with greatest reach to the world's poor. So here you can really see the contrast with the industrial. Okay, I see already some comments saying they agree. So I will give okay. I will maybe right away read the second one. And then you can all go back to the statements, of course, in the right-hand side here. So the second statement, in contrast with industrial agriculture, FFPOs and indigenous peoples' territories routinely integrate biodiverse patchworks of agricultural land with forests in agroforestry systems, woodlots, fallow lands, and conservation areas that are offering inclusive, climate resilient development. You will note that you all have an animal linked to your visiting link. I hope you are happy with the choice of the software. And of course, so you can also agree, but make other recommendations or disagree. This is really an open discussion, and we want really to have the feedback from the FFPOs and people working with FFPOs and indigenous peoples closely. So, statement 3. In contrast with industrial agriculture, the patchwork forest and farm landscapes of FFPOs and indigenous peoples routinely produce a wide diversity of subsistence agroforestry foods, including the wood energy to cook with and the construction material for shelter, alongside cash crops that together are constituting an integrated approach to food security, stable, nutritious, available, accessible, and sustainable. Thank you very much. That's agree, but sometimes they need support. So I will log. So I know it's not always easy in the beginning, but I can see that there is a lot of activity. I will maybe leave you another 2 minutes to go through the specific those 3 statements that you can join from here, here, or here. Duncan, is there any specific question on how to access or on the content at this stage?
There is one.
Or Sophie, sorry, yes.
Yes. Oh,
sorry.
no, I'm just helping. No, I see there is a question from Kisoyan asking if there is a simple tool for measuring climate change resilience that local farmers can use. Duncan, you have an idea on this?
There are tools out there that are trying to measure resilience. One of them is produced by the FAO, I think, and it's called SHARP. And it's effectively a questionnaire tool that involves household level surveys, and it generates information about people's perception of resilience, but it doesn't then have a set of solutions to offer. So it kind of is more a process of people understanding the threats to their resilience. And I'm sure Sophie or a colleague at FAO could provide that tool. In fact, I'll put you in touch, Kisoyan, with Maria Hernandez, who I think is in charge of its development. I'm not sure whether IUCN has got any resilience measuring tools. we haven't yet developed one in association with these 30 options. I think we felt resilience is such a difficult and multi-dimensional thing to measure that farmers are probably instinctively quite well aware of whether they feel resilient or not. So the most important thing was to give them ideas about what they could try to become more resilient, so that we focused on the options rather than the measuring the resilience itself. I hope that's helpful.
Yes, thank you. For IUCN, I don't know, we have colleagues on the call. I am not aware personally. So, yeah.
There's another question from Vietnam to Nusilalu. In Vietnam, farmers also have to deal with changes in rainfall and heavy rains, tube floods, flash floods that even wash away large bridges. So I'm really interested in the farmer's solution in Madagascar. Can you share about rain management techniques? So if Nusalalu, if you can speak, then we'd be happy to hear about your rain techniques while other people are typing into the thing. But if you can't, maybe write a reply into the chat to that interesting question from Vietnam.
Okay, I also see this. So there's a very good comment saying on statement 3, I am inclined to agree, but this might be too much of a generalization. So yeah, so please, we understand that this was also trying to cover a lot of things. So yes, please provide some more details, and we will see how we can adapt to make sure that it reflects your further thinking. So I will go to statement 4 now, but you can keep the other ones. Keep filling in the other sections, of course. So statement 4, for their own survival, FFPOs and indigenous peoples' territories are by necessity becoming resilient in sophisticated ways to climate change, economic shocks, pandemics, political inequalities, and conflict that embrace multiple social, cultural, ecological, economic, and physical technological diversification strategies, and both adapt to and mitigate climate change over collectively vast areas. So I think also, as Duncan said, resilience is quite complex. So I think it is a bit wordy, but if you have any specific questions also on what was meant behind it, you're also most welcome to ask. I always find this quite fascinating to see everybody working on the same document at the same time. I really encourage everyone to try to access this. And if you have difficulties accessing, please do not hesitate to go back to this link later in the day. Sophie, how am I doing with time?
We have only 5 minutes more, and then we have to wrap up.
Okay, so I'll quickly read the two last statements to make sure everybody's aware of them, and then we can. I will, as I said, I will stop sharing my screen, but I will keep this open. So statement number 5. Strengthening the organizations of FFPOs and indigenous peoples' territories from local groups through regional association to national and international federations constitutes a much neglected but efficient route towards climate risk reduction and management. And the last statement. Increasing the representation of FFPOs and indigenous peoples' territories in national and international decision-making and action on food systems and in global climate negotiations, finance and implementation modalities represents a huge opportunity for upscaling climate change adaptation, mitigation, and resilience. So I think I will let you continue. I will stop sharing. Maybe we can leave you 1 or 2 minutes before we proceed to the rest of the session. Thank you.
In the meantime, we see that there is some exchange in the chat box between Madagascar and Vietnam. Very interesting. As everybody can continue with this, with commenting on these 6 statements, maybe we can go forward with the closing remarks, because we are almost at 1 o'clock, and I think the 2-hour session is quite long. So I would like to welcome here Mr. Mai Bak Mi. He joined us now, and he is from Vietnam. He's member of the Vietnamese Farmers Union Standing Committee and director of the VNFU's External Affairs and International Cooperation Department. And VNFU is also the main implementing partner for the FFF in Vietnam. We have asked Mr. Mai Bak Mi to address us with some closing remarks. So please, you have the word, Mr. Mai Bak Mi. Welcome. You are muted, you are muted.
Sorry for that. Hi everyone, this is from Vietnam. My name is Mai Bak Mi, and thank you, Sophie, for the introduction very precisely. Everything, all of my titles and where I work. And on behalf of Vietnam Farmer Unions, I would like to send our best greeting to you all, and from Vietnam. As you know that the climate is changing fast, and so our farmers and FFPOs are living is unpredictable, changing context. And for us, diversification means to say how we build food securities and resilience into climate change mitigations. Through the showcase of 5 compelling stories and plenary discussions, we understand that diversifications are solutions both to climate resilience and to climate change mitigations. And in Vietnam, smallholder farmers are critical to our food systems. And Vietnam Farmer Unions support smallholder farmers to build food security at many levels, at communes, districts, and province and national. The climate change is making life hard for our farming communities and for ethnic minorities, groups who depend on agriculture and forest products. In context of the present erratic climate change, individuals, farmers often don't know when is the best time to plant or how to avoid crop failures. VNFU is pleased to have support from the forest and farm facilities to have improved farmers' business through working together with trust, building economies of scales, and linked to service providers and private sectors. Farmer groups also have learned to do regular risk analysis and have come up with coping strategies such as diversifications, improved seedlings, longer tree rotations, etc. to address their climate resilience. And the presented case from Yên Bai, and as Mr. Thuan Ho has presented before, and show how strong farmer organization and diversified case of crops and markets can be built resilience. Do agroforestry business well, create more value added from product processing and more jobs. More income for community people, especially the women's participation and youth. The VNFU's e-learning from other presentations from Ghana, Madagascar, and Nepal, and from the 30 options for becoming more climate resilient from prepared by the IAED. And we strongly believe that farmer organizations are best placed to improve climate resilience for our own food security, but also for the world. With that spirit, on behalf of VNFU, I would like to wrap up the webinar on the diversifications, and please stay safe, and looking forward to seeing you soon in Vietnam. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these wise closing words, Mr. My Bac My, and to all of you for your attention and active participation. We will share the presentations and the results of these discussions on our FFF website. Thank you, and have a good afternoon or evening or morning. Bye.